is February the 10th, 2006. This is the beginning of an interview with Arnold Jewett, Charles Arnold Jewett, in Winchester City Hall at Winchester, Kentucky. Mr. Jewett is 74 years old, having been born on June 11th, 1931. My name is Don Rose, and I will be the interviewer. Jim Kirby is running the camera and keeping the log. Mr. Jewett, what branch of service were you in?
Air Force.
And what war were you
Korean War.
Did you enlist, or were you?
I enlisted December the 5th, 1951.
Why did you choose the Air Force?
Well, I just guess I took the Air Force.
Did you, where were you living at the time that you enlisted?
Winchester, Kentucky.
Did you feel that the Air Force was a better deal for you, say, than the Army or Navy?
Well, I kind of liked the Air Force.
Did you want to fly, or?
No, they put me in food service, so you know how good I was.
So do you recall the first day that you went into the service?
Yes.
What happened?
We flew out of here. You mean getting to that San Antonio?
Well, where did you go for your induction when you swore in and got your uniforms issued and all that?
Well, I flew in to Fort Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas, and they issued all our clothes that day.
Did you, when you got to Lackland Air Force Base, that is a training base for the Air Force, and you remember your first day after you got to Lackland?
Yes, it was kind of weird, a little different world than what I've been used to.
How did you feel?
I had a good drill sergeant. He kind of spooked me a little bit at the first, but I got over it.
Had you been away from home much?
Never been home before.
Yeah. Did you get homesick?
Well, my parents came down for Christmas. We got there, and they drove down and to see me for Christmas, and that was kind of a break.
So you went in December the 5th.
5th, right.
Yeah. Now, what was, how long were you in basic training down there?
8 weeks.
And what about your people who trained you, your trainers? What did you think about them?
Well, they were on the ball.
Were they good?
They were good.
How did they treat you?
Well, they treated that's what we need more of right now.
Yeah. Had a lot of discipline?
A lot of discipline.
Did they put you through a lot of physical exercises?
Right, every day.
Obstacle course?
And then when you was in Texas, you froze in the morning and burnt up in the afternoon. You put on long drawers in the morning, and you'd have to come out by noontime.
Yeah. Did you, when you were in Texas, were you able to go on leave while you were in,
No.
going on Liberty into town or anything?
Oh yeah, went in San Antonio.
Yeah. Did you do anything special when you went into San Antonio?
It was been so long, but it wasn't nothing big. I grew up when I got overseas.
How old were you when you went in the Air Force?
20.
20 years old. And so when you left is there anything else you want to talk about in your training while you were at Lackland?
Lackland. Well, it was, I thought I was going to get out of Texas, and they just sent me across town, Fort Sam Houston.
Fort Sam Houston. Now, what did you do when you
I went to cook school over there. I was a baker.
A baker.
A baker.
Had you had any previous experience?
No.
Yeah. So you learned to be a baker.
I was a baker.
In Fort Sam Houston.
And I made 16 months. I made staff sergeant, so I did pretty good. I was a pretty good baker.
Were you at Fort Sam Houston all of that 16
No. I was Châteauroux, France.
How long did you stay at Fort Sam Houston?
Fort Sam Houston up into May. Let's see, May, probably 3 months.
So when you left Fort Sam Houston, your MOS was Baker,
Baker, right,
and you went from Fort Sam Houston to work
to Châteauroux, France.
Châteauroux, France. How did you go? Did you fly or
7 days on a boat,
on a boat? Was there a whole bunch of you on the boat?
whole bunch on a boat.
A troop ship, was
Troop
it?
ship.
Yeah.
4-deck high.
Four-deck high. How was your accommodations in that ship?
Well, it was tight, but I stayed well to the last day, and that North Sea got me awful sick.
You got seasick. Yeah.
Seasick.
That's not a rare thing to get seasick.
Then we ended up in Bremerhaven, Germany, and you see these little cars they hauled the Jews on. Well, that's what we got on to go into Bremerhaven to get when they got glass of milk. Well, that milk tasted good. It was just a different world.
Yeah.
Then I got on the train going to Châteauroux, and no water, and that's the first beer I ever had in my life.
So you had a beer on the train.
On the train.
How did that affect you?
I got thirsty.
What did you think about that beer when you
Oh,
first
that
tasted
French beer wasn't no good. It was,
Yeah.
it was
Take a
sickening.
it? You thought, man, I'll never be a beer drinker, huh? So you went to Bremerhaven?
Bremerhaven, Germany,
Okay.
from left New Jersey, came Kilmer, and went to Bremerhaven, Germany.
So now, you took 8 days on a boat.
8 days
Then
on a
you
boat.
landed at France.
Bremerhaven
You landed at
in Germany, Bremerhaven, Germany.
Okay, all right. Now what? So you went to you landed. Now what? Did you do anything there, or just get on a train?
They just processed us,
Okay.
put us on a train, and sent us to Châteauroux.
Oh, okay. So now you went to Châteauroux. Was that was that an Air Force
That was Air Force,
base?
a big Air Force base.
What were they basically flying out of there?
They was supply ships, C-47s. It was
Okay.
nothing but supply depot.
So your job, did you work in the mess hall, or did you
I worked in the bakery. It
in the bakery?
was we worked 2 days on and 2 days off.
Did your bakery supply bakery goods for any?
Bread, no, just for that base there. There was
Just for that
5,000
base?
troops
Oh.
right there at Bremerhaven. I mean at Châteauroux.
So you baked everything they needed?
Everything, bread, everything.
What are some of the other?
Cakes and pies, and the dessert was two times a day.
Yeah.
And the bread, some of the bread came from the army base at Orleans, Germany, Orleans, France. Some of the bread did, but we made all the rolls and everything like that.
That would be just about like working in a big major bakery
Right,
somewhere.
right.
wasn't it? Yeah. Now, you weren't there by yourself in the
Oh,
bakery?
no.
Okay. Now, at that time, what was your rank at the time?
PFC,
Okay. And so,
$90 a month.
Yeah. Who was the head person, what was his rank in the bakery?
He was a master sergeant.
And
I forgot his name, but it was master sergeant.
was he a good
He was a good master.
baker or just a good
He
boss?
was a good person.
Yeah. And were you already, based on that 3 months you spent at Fort Sam Houston in school, were you a good baker already, or did you learn a lot once you got
I
on the
learned
job?
a whole lot when I got there.
Yeah. And did that master sergeant, was he your primary teacher?
He was my teacher.
Yeah.
Well, I had a German boy that he must have baked before came from Germany to the United States, and he was very good. He could decorate a cake, do anything, and he was very talented. And he taught me a lot.
Did you enjoy that baking job?
It was all right. It was a job.
Is that all you did? Did you do anything, other jobs other than baking?
I was a baker the whole time I was in the service.
Okay. Now, when you were in France, sir, you had 2 days on and 2 days off.
Right.
What did you do with your 2 days off?
Went to Paris. I knew Paris as well as I did Winchester.
Well, tell us something about, this is during the Korean War, right?
During the Korean War, right.
Tell us something about Paris.
Well, we had a little Volkswagen, and we'd go up there every once in a while, and then, of course, Paris stayed up all night, and it was just something different. I grew up.
Okay.
became a man.
So did you, had you learned to drink beer and wine?
Oh yeah, I did drink. I never was much on the wine,
Yeah.
but I still learned to drink beer. Good
So,
beer.
did
German beer was good beer.
Did you do anything special in Paris that you want to talk about, or
I
something,
don't know.
anything that's safe to talk about?
Well, what we did in Paris was sort of left it over there,
Okay.
like all of us do.
Oh, yes. Okay, so now, were you in combat?
No, no combat.
So did you spend all of your time at
Chateauroux.
Chateauroux? In the same,
I stayed there an extra month because they didn't have room to ship us out. I stayed there 37 months.
so what was the highest rank that you achieved?
Staff sergeant.
Did from your base, did they fly into combat zones?
No, they delivered. There wasn't nothing going on over there. They flew into Berlin.
Yeah, okay. So you were actually on the opposite side of the world in
Right,
the Korean
right,
War.
right.
Yeah, okay. Did you know any of the guys who were involved in combat that came back, or what you say you went through training with that had to go to Korea?
No, I never did see none of them again.
Okay. How did you, when you got to France there, and being an old country boy from Kentucky, how did you feel about being in a totally foreign country and not knowing one word of their language?
Well, it depends how much I had to drink. I could speak pretty good French, and it was different. The French people didn't like us. The airport you saw on the wall, U.S. go home, U.S. go home. They was almost a communist nation. We just barely, I don't know, they didn't appreciate anything we did for them. They still don't appreciate anything we do for them.
Was that when de Gaulle was in charge there?
De Gaulle was in charge, and it was
Yeah.
U.S. go home, and it was where you see a sign it'd be U.S. go home. But the little villages and towns around there, they were friendly people to you. But
So the civilians treated you all right. It
All
was
right.
basically the government level, higher
Right.
level people,
Right, they were-
or a few of the rebel, rebellious, and so forth.
they still, like I say, they're still jealous of us, even if you treat them good.
I guess, would you say that the Americans Go Home was instigated by the government then, more or less?
Well, I'd say so. They was most of them, a lot of them was communist.
Yeah.
They didn't like what was going on, didn't like us. But we put money in their pockets instead of they wouldn't been as good a shape we had.
At that time, how was the economy in France?
It wasn't too hot, but it was, everybody was on the way back. The Marshall Plan had put them on the ball. And when I went through Germany, you could still see all the burned out buildings up through Frankfurt through there. It was still hadn't been completely finished.
Well, in your in your stay over there in France, did you learn much of the language?
I was pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't pick up Spanish right now because I still want to speak French.
Yeah. Do you still speak some French?
I can understand if you speak French. I could make out what you said.
Now so the French civilians then, the people you met in town are just a normal everyday people.
Right.
They were all right. They
All right,
treated you okay.
right.
Yeah. Did you win any medals? Or
No
anything?
medals.
Good conduct.
Good
I guess,
conduct.
Is a normal stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So you were in, how long were you over in France now? You came back?
37 months.
37 months. So then.
It got a long time.
Yeah. Did you, while you were there, did you get to see any professional entertainers like Bob Hope?
Oh yeah. It was Eddie Fisher. Let me see who else. Eddie Fisher. There was always somebody. USO was always having somebody.
Did you guys do anything special for good luck, you know, like a rabbit's foot or anything like that? Did you or anybody that you know?
I carried a $2 bill the whole time I was over there. That's the only thing I carried.
Was that something you carried for good luck?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Still carry one.
Yeah. Now, you being in the bakery business, how was the food overall? You know?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And it was sort of like if you go in out and partied a little bit too much that night, you could always go over and get something out of the mess hall, and it was get a good steak too.
Yeah. So they never closed. You could go in the mess hall
Right.
at night.
Everybody,
Yeah.
see, the APs was always working. Everybody was working. There was always somebody had to be fed.
Did you have to cook your own steak if you went?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand the Air Force had a pretty good
Food.
So, okay, what about, did you feel any stress or anything, or a lot of pressure when you were over there?
Well, the longer I stayed, the more I got with the program, and I just enjoyed it. And we took pictures, and we traveled a little bit. We had a little Volkswagen, $1,100 for a Volkswagen then, and two of them bought it. Then one of them had to ship out, and I bought his part. And we took that little Volkswagen and traveled around, went to Spain, just enjoyed it.
You want to tell us anything about Spain?
Well, we just went down there for a leave one time.
Did you have a good time there?
Had a good time.
Yeah.
They kind of turned the lights off middle of the afternoon. You didn't have no lights there. They just turned them on like today right now. Right, the lights would be off in the afternoon. Save electric.
Yeah. So.
Went to Barcelona, which was a big place for the Navy to come in.
Did you encounter a lot of Navy personnel while you were in
No,
Barcelona?
I never did see too many. Ships come in at different times.
Yeah. Was Barcelona a pretty
Beautiful place.
Was it pretty much a partying
No,
party
it was just
town?
a lot of history in
Yeah.
Barcelona, a lot of statues.
Yeah. What about your family? Did you communicate regularly with your
I
family?
wrote, and I had two aunts. They wrote me all the time. I always had mail.
Yeah, well, that's good. Did it take
And my
you,
mother was a very good person. She kept in touch and always sending me something.
Did it take you very long to get your mail?
Not too long,
Yeah.
3 or 4 days.
Because you were in a zone where there was no
Right.
combat going
Right,
on, so,
right.
yeah. Did you guys play any tricks on each other, practical jokes and all that stuff?
Well, I'd say anybody who ain't human that wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah. Can you recall anything that you might?
Oh, Lord. Like I said, kind of gets, a lot of stuff's got lost in my mind
Yeah.
that I can't remember.
Do you, can you recall any particularly humorous incident or unusual thing that might have happened while you were in the service? Not necessarily in France or anywhere, you know.
Well, I'm just glad to get back home. That was one thing. And when I got out, my father put me to work, and I didn't have no idle time. But while I was in the Air Force, that was my biggest vacation I've ever had, and I enjoyed it.
What were you doing before you went into service?
Working on a farm for F.W. Rickard and going to college. Couldn't pass English.
Yeah. You working for Rickard over at the seed place?
Seed place. He worked about everybody in Clark County at one time.
Yeah. Now, at that time, when you were working for Rickard back then, was it mostly manual labor?
Manual labor.
Yeah.
Hard work too. He worked 6 to 6, and he'd like to keep you out there on Saturday so they wouldn't get drunk, and they still got drunk.
Was there anything else that you did while you were overseas that you might want to talk about?
Well, I tell you what, it came a lot of companionship. There were a lot of friends that you never forgot, and we never did have no, reunion or anything like that where you could get back together.
Yeah.
But I always thought it'd been awful nice if you could all got back together.
Do you still keep in touch with any of them, or
No,
did you for a while?
I just did for 5 or 6 years.
Did you make any real close friends?
I had close friends.
Yeah. Did you make any friends from close by here?
No, there wasn't anybody from around here that I met one or two. I met came over there. Matt Anderson was a boy I grew up with, and he was stationed down in Orleans, and he came up in a big truck one time. I got to see him, but there wasn't too many that I met that was from here.
How did you guys entertain yourself, while you were over there?
Well, there was a whole lot to do. A lot of beer drinking,
Yeah. Did you play a lot of cards?
cards. What if you played cards?
Yeah. What about your officers and your fellow guys over there? How did you recall your?
Well, I had good officers,
Yeah.
and we had a rough bunch. The blacks in there, they was always wanting to fight, and you couldn't have a squadron party if they wasn't somebody picking a fight. And a lot of the boys from the South, and it was hard. Now, when I went over there, I had a nice black boy from New York. Was Truman had integrated at about that time, and he slept above me in the service. And that was as close as I'd ever been to a black person besides right down here in town.
How did you feel about that, having been raised up in a segregated
Area. Well, it was kind of hard to get. They always had the blonde girls. If you looked, they always had picked a girl that had blonde hair. They always ended.
Yeah. So, but you didn't have any long-term
No.
problems with that. Did you make friends with him?
Oh yeah, the one above me, hell, I trusted him with anything I had right there.
Okay, what about, is there anything else you want to talk about while you were overseas?
Well, like I said, I was over there 37 months, and I got to know the people pretty good. I got to know France. Paris, France was a wonderful place to go to. There was a whole lot to see,
Yeah.
and a whole lot of fun.
Did you go up in the Eiffel Tower?
Oh yeah, I went to Eiffel Tower. I scratched my name on a little somewhere up there, still up there probably. Arch of Triumph. We drove around there. I sold a few cigarettes too. I didn't smoke, so I'd buy cigarettes up, and I didn't ever charge nobody no extra money. But for 1,000 francs was worth $2.86 when I was over there, and I let them borrow the money back at $3, made 14 cents, which I didn't mind. And they all paid me. I only had one person trying to beat me. I never had no trouble. And but if I had a little extra money, they could borrow it. And somebody always needed a little extra money.
Well, that's good. So, now what about when you came back to the States? Where did you come to?
They sent me out to a little radar base out in Missouri. And I was about 50 miles from Quincy, Illinois. And I'll come to me in a minute where the town I was at. But we had a nice big lake there, and I met a lot of people there, and we'd go fishing. And I played cribbage. I learned how to play cribbage pretty good with the mess sergeant. And I didn't have to make about one pie and one cake a day,
But
and I had it made.
you were still baking then?
Still baking.
But you had a small,
About 150 people.
about 150. So was it a guard detachment or radar?
Little radar base,
Okay.
where they put them up all over the country back there then.
So were you the only baker there at that?
I was the only
place?
baker there.
Yeah. Did you have to do any other?
No, I was just a baker.
Now, did you do your baking in the mess hall there?
In the mess hall, right.
You didn't have a bakery shop?
No.
Yeah, okay. So,
Whatever the mess sergeant put out for us to do, I was a baker. The cooks did their cooking, and I was a baker.
how long were you at that?
About 6 months.
About 6 months.
I had 30. I got home in June, later part of June, and I had 30 days off, and I went over there and I finished up in December.
That's where you got discharged?
Discharged in Kansas City.
Kansas City. And then you, of course, came home from Kansas City. Did you fly by the train?
I rode C&O, and I got over to Lexington, and I hitchhiked the rest of the way home. Somebody picked me up. Probably that you just go out on Midland and catch a ride anytime. A serviceman could do it one time.
So how did you feel that last day of service?
Well, it was kind of nice to get out.
Yeah. You had a good time, but
You know, I almost wanted to stay in.
yeah. So you had mixed emotions.
Mixed emotions. I got used to it. I liked to almost stayed in, but I said, well, better go home.
So when you got home, what did you do?
I started farming. My father bought a farm for me to start out with. He was in the construction business, and I didn't like the construction business. So I started farming over in Fayette County.
Okay. What size farm did you have?
It was 225 acres.
And what was your primary crop?
With tobacco and cattle,
Yeah.
sheep.
Yeah. So you had cattle and sheep to market and then
Right,
tobacco.
right, right.
Yeah. So how long did you work on the farm? Is that
Well, he kept the farm there he sold it about 8 months after he bought it. And he made a profit. And I rented a farm up here in Clark County, and this December I'll be farming 50 years.
okay?
50
So
years.
that's what you did for.
That's all I've ever did was farm.
How about did you do any other work for anybody else, or just farmed?
I just farmed.
Okay. You still farming?
Still farming.
Okay. Now you don't. Do you live on the farm now?
No,
Yeah.
I still live in town. I never have lived on the farm.
Yeah.
But the farm's been good to me, and I've did right well with my health and my hip that I've had. I've been wonderful.
Do you have more than one farm now?
I've got about 1,800 acres.
Oh, you got a big.
I sold some of it when I had cancer, and I was afraid wasn't going to be here.
I noticed on your hat there, Jewett Farm. So.
Right.
Yeah. That's great. So okay, now how about? Did you go to school or anything after you got out?
Went veteran school, agriculture,
Did you get it on a GI Bill?
GI Bill, and they paid us it was kind of a lifesaver, about $150 a month
Yeah.
to go to school.
Yeah. And did you studied agriculture?
Well, we went there. All of us was veterans, and we'd go from farm to farm, and we'd go to class once a week, and our teacher would try to tell us something.
Was that beneficial?
It was good.
You probably already knew more than the teacher did.
No, I had a good teacher in F.W. Rickard.
Yeah. Now, did you, when you got out of, or were you married before you got out of service?
It took me a long time to get married. I didn't get married till I was 50 years old.
50 years old. Okay. Do you have any children?
Got one stepdaughter.
One stepdaughter?
Stepdaughter.
Yeah. Okay. And what about, do you belong to any veterans organizations now?
No, not right now. I don't.
Yeah. Have you belonged?
Well, George Fox got me in the American Legion, American Legion. That didn't stay too long here. It just kind of dropped out. And but I've never. I just don't kind of quit drinking, and I don't. And I mean, I don't mean that all the clubs are to drink, but it was a nice place to go and sit down with your friends and have a beer or something like that, or a drink.
Okay. What about, do you think that your experience in the military has had any influence on your thinking about war or the military in general?
Well, I got a respect for him, and it grew me up. Took me away from being just a little town boy, and grew me up where I got to see a lot of the world, and I appreciate everything they gave me.
So I guess you just answered my next question. I was going to ask you, how do you think the military affected your life?
It affected me, it grew me up, made me a man, and I think everybody ought to have to go to service for a year.
Okay.
I think that when they get out of high school, if they want to go to college, still go to for service for a year. Learn to take care of your body, learn to take care of yourself, learn about people, get along with people.
Well, I think that's a wonderful philosophy. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about, say, before we conclude this interview, anything you'd like to add, anything you hadn't thought of that you want to say now, or any statement at all you want to make?
I put it in a nutshell when I told you that last there, how much it's improved my life. And you learn how to handle everything.
So the military really meant a lot to you.
Right.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, it was a nice vacation.
Yeah, from that hard farm work.
Right.
So you didn't have a lot of trouble with the physical part of being in the military because you'd already
Right.
were strong as a bull from
Right.
working on that farm
Right.
over there. The physical stuff there was nothing compared to Rick.
Right. I was like a Superman almost.
Yeah. So, well, I want to thank you for coming in today. And
Well, Don, I'm glad to give you this interview, and like I said, I appreciate my service life, and I'm proud to be a veteran.
well, we're very proud of you.
And I tell you what, like I say, I like to see more of them be veterans. I think that they ought to some way get some of these kids, grow them up, cut their hair, make them look like somebody.
And the way we look at it is that you were, even though you weren't in combat, you were willing to put on the uniform and place your life on the line.
Right. They sent me, I could have been sent somewhere else.
If it was necessary, you would have gone.
Right.
So as far as we're concerned, you're a true American hero,
Right.
and we appreciate that.